Hey everybody, welcome back to Magnetic Core's Let's Talk, Episode 8, Sabotaging Identities. This is one of those topics that we've all been super excited to dig into. Lots of references to this topic in our work and what we do and how we work on ourselves and each other. First out of the gate, I want to do a couple of introductions. First up, the Magnetic Core coaches. My name is Corey Three-Wing.
Laura.
I am Sarah.
Right on. Cool. We've got some other people in the room today too I want to shout out to. We've got some Magnetic Mind certified coaches in the room. We've got a whole bunch of returning guests also from that tribe. I want to do a little shout out to anybody who's new. Welcome to what we're doing here. We love it when new people join us in the circle. And more importantly, guests from all around the globe. We've got people with us from all over the whole wide world. I think that is super cool. A little bit of protocol right out the gate. Since we're living a Zoom life while we're doing this, if you'd be so kind, those of you with us live, to keep your mics on mute so that we can have the best sound quality that we can get our hands on, as well as this is being recorded for our use and your use in the future. So if you choose not to be recorded, do us a little favor and keep your camera turned off, and that way we'll know not to call on you. And that kind of takes care of that. We're going to have a little aha and takeaway moment at the end. Right out the bat, I want to talk about some intention. What is our intention today, Laura? Where are we at today?
All right. Hang on. I'm just going to check a little session here. Okay. We always like to have an intention, set an intention. So today our intention is to dig deeper into the understanding of and the effects of sabotaging identities and self-sabotage and the benefit of an outside perspective from a coach. Corey, do you have some definitions for us?
You know, I love my definitions. Yeah, sabotaging identities. Let's take that apart a little bit. Sabotage, all by itself. I found 3 different definitions that point in a little bit different direction from several dictionaries online as I was surfing for this. The first one is the act of intentionally preventing the success of a plan or action so that it cannot be used. Here the focus is on plan and action, putting a stop to a plan or action. Second definition is the act of intentionally trying to stop someone from achieving something or to stop something from happening. So now here the focus is on stopping someone or something. And the third definition is a deliberate damage that is done to the property of an enemy or an opponent. You know, this one caught my eye a little bit because sometimes we fight our own sabotaging identities. Sometimes we have to discover that there's pieces, you know, inside of ourselves that are not helping us out. So I thought that was kind of interesting. You know, intentionally taking apart a plan or action, or sabotaging someone or something, or recognizing stopping an enemy or an opposing force. All right, now identity. I'm a quick shout out to an episode of the past where we went into identity in a really big way. So those of you who are new here and are curious about this topic, identity is a major thing that we work on in this journey. But so for our purposes today, I just chose two definitions. One being the characteristics determining who or what a person is. And the second definition, the qualities that make someone or something what they are and different from other people. So, you know, a quick look into ourselves. How do we identify who we are? What do we think of ourselves? You know, and how do we identify as special or different from others? So sabotaging identities.
Yeah, I love that last one because it really emphasizes our uniqueness. And that's a really big thing for me when I think about this picture, how we all get to be and have, you know, our own version of a life that we love, be our own unique true selves. So a quick review about identity from the past episode, just the idea that identity creates outcomes. What you believe about yourself creates your values and your actions. We want to talk about the triggering quality of the word identity. Who do you think you are? Who are you? How many identities are you currently aware of? How many identities are you shifting in and out of on a daily basis? We're not just one person all the time, are we? Who are you now? Who are you on this call? You might be a student, you might be, receiving this work as a client. Who are you at work? Who are you with your parents, your friends? Are you the same with your high school friends as you are with your kids? What tribe do you come from? According to what and whose values? Where do you belong and where would you like to belong? And how does that make you feel and why? And what masks do you use to face the world, to go into the world, and why? The idea of a well-made choice, a well-made chosen facade. Do you have a purposefully and powerfully crafted front that you're presenting to the world and being in your power, or are you hiding behind a facade, protecting yourself, not being in your power? So let's talk about self-talk, Corey. What have you got?
Yeah, so when we're in our power, what do we say to ourselves? Like when we're proud of ourselves and we have celebrations and wins. And then when we're not in our power, when we're self-defeating, what is that kind of self-talk? How do we speak to ourselves? I know looking at self-talk is a really quick view, a quick way to see some of these self-sabotaging beliefs and actions put into play in your own world. How nice are you to yourself? So what happens when you win and what happens when you totally blow it, right? Are you supportive to yourself or are you mean to yourself? And I think now something that we're going to talk about right here, right now, which is kind of out of the box for a second, a little bit different than the magnetic mind's background, is I want to talk about conscious self-sabotage and unconscious self-sabotage, when we know we're doing it and when we don't know we're doing it. Now, conscious self-sabotage, these are the actions hinder your goals, but you engage in them anyway. You do it anyway. Like an example, you've got some things you want to do that you want to work on, and you find yourself back in front of the TV with some Netflix. You're hanging out right there. You know that you're not taking action toward things that you would like to be doing or feel like you should be doing, right? Now, unconscious sabotage, this gets a little bit more tricky. This form is more subtle. It's a little bit in the wings or maybe in the dark. You do it without being aware of how it undermines you, right? Here it comes. Now, here's an example. Okay, you're in a relationship with somebody and you withdraw. All of a sudden you start pulling out of this relationship, this engagement, be that a lover or a work relationship, a partnership of any kind, but you start pulling out as soon as minor problems enter the arena. Like all of a sudden there's some conflict or some hard conversations and you totally just put a stop to it, even though in your heart of hearts, you want a deeper connection with that person, right? So you're undermining yourself. Now, some of these self-sabotaging ideas are hanging out in this unconscious world until we bring them into the light.
Yeah, and there's always a reason behind self-sabotage. There's a reason for it. And there are several common reasons. Shielding yourself from discomfort. So when you believe that things, that difficult feelings can destroy you. I think we've all had that feeling where it's just, you're afraid of a feeling. So you might try to avoid those emotions at all costs. Or poor self-image. If you consistently tell yourself that you're unworthy, not good enough, not capable, you're more likely to take actions that support that image, that sustain that image. So you basically prove it to yourself. Fearing failure or success, right? Both of them, both failure and success, are a threat to the status quo and to your current identity. And we all know that the subconscious mind doesn't like change, and it'll tend to steer your behavior to protect you from any change, really. And then wanting to be in control, covering your true nature, purpose, could bring a lot of unknown into your life. So you may engage in self-sabotage just to avoid losing that control. So in magnetic mind, we have a certain set of sabotaging identities we talk about. Do you want to?
Yeah, let's get into some of those. And I'm going to invite Sarah to comment here a little bit too. We talk about these a lot. We go over these a lot. We've seen them on ourselves, and we're discovering the symptoms, the effects, the causes around these. These are the ones, the famous ones that come up in our conversation a lot. First one is I'm not worthy. You don't go for what you love. If I do enough good, I'll get what I want. So there's a
Right.
but factor here. So yeah, bring it on, Sarah.
Well, you run into these characters in the run of a day everywhere. And it reminds me of like the little Mr. Men. There's Mr. I'm not worthy, Miss I'm not good enough. I don't belong. I'm not
Well, you're getting ahead
capable.
of us, Sarah. You're getting way ahead of us. We're going to do one at a
So
time.
I know, but I'm just saying that there's these 7 predominant ones, right, that we see, and there's others, but the main ones that we see with the I'm not worthy. Somebody's like, okay, I'm doing all of this good, and they're doing quietly, doing favors for people and giving and volunteering and wanting to, head up these big societal movements and change, the world for the better. And then they expect that the universe will just turn around and give them, a good life. And there's a confusion there in somebody who feels I'm not worthy. They're trying to kind of buy their worth or prove that they're
too, Sarah, they push the pause button on worthy. Like, I'm not going to do it until I'm worthy. I'm not going to take action until something else happens. So there's the big cosmic stop on the path, still looking at the path, but there's a stop, a pause. If I'm not worthy.
There's a polarity to each one of these too.
Yeah.
So yeah, you can have the overgiver, and then you can have the person that, oh, I don't have anything that's worth giving.
Yeah.
And there's like a 2 different expressions of each of these, and as we go through them, you'll probably recognize a few. And we all have some level of the I'm not worthy factor at play. It's just when it gets in your way, it gets loud, and we can see it. But as a general orientation to life, an overgiver that just expects the universe to be fair, and they're stuck in the deck for themselves.
Right. I think you're onto something, Sarah. Every one of these self-sabotaging identities and qualities and the effects therein, I think we can all find them in our own life. We all do it. That's one of the reasons why there is so much information out there, in the coaching world, in the self-help world, and in our context here today. Yeah, just without out to that.
It's not something that calls for any level of judgment any which way, because the human experience has us orient to one of these or more. And it's just the human condition. Right. So just recognizing it and going, okay, that's me being a people, and then just not letting it get in the way, and maybe balancing it a little bit more if you recognize it.
Yeah.
So I'm not good enough.
Yeah, the second one is I'm not good enough. Now this one, you have to prove you are enough rather than go for what you love. Right. All of a sudden, there's steps to take in advance before you can get to creating this thing you desire. Oh my gosh. Yeah.
That's the guy that goes and gets the job that's expected from the family or the career path. It's the person that wants to be an artist, and they get hired on at the mill, right? And because it's a lawyer, because
dad said so,
and they're going to get the work experience, and they're going to build up their skills, and they're going to show that they're enough for the people in their lives. And it's an outward expression instead of, they try and add enough to themselves, which of course is a fruitless pursuit, because you can't, how much is enough? Because it's never enough. And you'll see that play out in all of these different, somebody who orients that way, it will show up in all kinds of little ways, and then big ways where somebody could take a whole different life path. They get married, have 2 kids and the car and the work-a-day job and the 2 weeks vacation, and that they don't love anything about it, but they need to show that they're enough.
I think one of the things about not enough shows up in a really big way with our health, with a diagnosis. Like all of a sudden, I'm not enough, I'm not healthy, or, oh my gosh, then you focus on the disease, not on the amount of health that you really are. I'm not enough. You have to do something first in order for anything else to even be possible. And when you're focused on not enough, you're never going to be, right? That hole stays empty. Third one, I'm insignificant. Now this one, wow. Okay, so now you're not being seen. You're totally convinced that you're being overlooked, right? And so now you're trying to be seen. Now you're doing your very best. You go for being seen more than going for what you love. Now you have to be acknowledged before something can happen. So then that gets to the point where you're not getting your goals, so you stop trying. You're just defeated. You come stopped. Once again, the cosmic pause, stopped in your tracks.
There's that polarity again. Either someone who orients to I'm insignificant is either just constantly on that hamster wheel of trying to show their significance. They will want to pursue really public positions. They'll want to take on these spotlighted roles. They want to show their significance and prove their significance. Or it's the reverse, where someone who feels insignificant doesn't try. They try to blend into the wallpaper. They try to stay back. They don't go for that job. Nobody'll give me the promotion anyway. They don't even apply. So again, there's this opt out because of insignificance, or there's this hamster wheel of unresolvable, like it's the carrot in front of the horse. You're never going to get there, and they'll run and run and run after that, or opting out. And it's in the name of these, in the name of these orientations. But I don't belong. I don't belong is a big one.
Oh,
and
man.
Again,
Yeah.
Tribe, right?
Yeah. So I don't belong. I love to think about now you're a misfit, right? Of course, in some tribes like my very own, being a misfit is a pride moment. I don't fit in. But in this context, where you're not honoring your difference, now all of a sudden your difference is holding it against you, right? Now you're searching for tribe, you're wanting to belong. And in this world of not belonging, now there's a fear of judgment. Now all of a sudden, the reason you're not in that place where you want to be is because whatever those people are thinking matters more than your own experience of yourself, what they think matters. You're obsessed with finding love, which means you're seeking relationships, but you never let yourself come in the door to even get them. You're stuck in your trap. So now you're absolutely convinced you don't belong. So you discover and prove it to yourself that you don't.
Right. Or flip side, total rebel. And you just like, you wave that flag high and you overplay that you don't belong. And you give yourself a badge of pride in not belonging. And it's a deliberate nonconformity. Even if you would be fine wearing a particular outfit that would be dress appropriate to an event, you might be inclined to wear something less appropriate in the name of I don't belong anyway. I'm a rebel. And you see a lot of the either someone stepping back and saying, oh no, don't worry about it, or no, you don't need to set a place at dinner for me, I'm fine, I don't, I couldn't sit at your family table, or oh no, I couldn't come on that trip, or I'm not going to join that team, and just kind of opting out with this expectation that they will be judged to not belong, or there's a super focused effort to dress exactly the same, or look exactly the same, or speak in a particular way, or whatever it is, whatever the credential is that they see as a ticket to belonging, we go after that.
Yeah, I think in the not belonging, there's an automatic tribe of misfits that also circle around and prove it to each other that they're not going to fit. So now they're enameling that belief together. Right?
Which is hilarious to me, because then they belong to their own tribe.
Exactly. Oh, the irony of this is amazing.
Don't belong, right?
Yeah. So the next one is, I don't have capacity. Now this one I find so interesting, and I think we can all relate to pieces of this. Like, you don't have enough of something in order to get what you need or desire where you're going for it. So is that time? You don't have enough money, you don't have enough skill, or there's just too much to do. There's only one of you, right? When I have this, then I'll be able to have that. You have to have more of something before something else can even become possible, which is also an oscillating loop where you become self-defeated, and all of a sudden you're getting less done because you're absolutely obsessed on what you're not doing. So then you underachieve even more than working towards your action steps towards your goals. This one's an interesting loop.
Yeah, when you meet people that are oriented to life this way, they invariably open, or very early on in a conversation, you will hear the list of reasons and people to blame. And it's because of this, and they will, prove their failure. Yeah, that they'll offer their failure, then they'll prove it, and then they'll blame all of the circumstance. And it's a really odd one, because like, well, if it had been different, everything would have been fine. But, I just didn't have enough time to get it done. I didn't have any help. I didn't have any, and there's a real disempowering in that way, where you're deferring to other people and saying you either, well, I don't have capacity. Inside that one, there's also, I don't have the capability. So they're either trying to increase their capacity at the expense of something else.
Yeah, this one's interesting, because, when you don't have the capacity, there's also, it stops your ability to receive the help you're actually thinking you need. It kind of slows things down.
You can't receive anything. You're at capacity.
Yep.
There's just there's no way for someone to receive in that state.
Yeah, exactly. So the last one we've got here is, I have to be perfect. Now this one, method oriented. Now there's a strategic plan that has to be achieved in the right order, in the right way, with all the things and all the buttons, or you start over. It's got to be perfect, right? You never risk the failure. You're never going to risk failure at all. And so there's this epic journey to make sure it's done right in the eyes of who knows who made those rules. Doesn't matter, but it has to be perfect. You cannot do it wrong. Right.
Well, and that's why perfectionists have such a hard time pulling a goal over that finish line. They'll come right up to it, like right up to it. Yeah. And then, oh no, they're going to check that. And then it turns into this obsessive compulsive fact-checking, redoing, modifying, rethinking, and everything gets caught in a loop, and everything gets worked 18 times over. It never actually comes to completion because it's not perfect. Or if that epiphany happens to a perfectionist, they just stop trying.
Right.
If they realize that it's not ever going to be perfect, that's not okay with somebody who's oriented in perfection. It's just not okay, and they're not going to do it at all.
Yeah. So we have one more. I fooled myself. There's this one. This one is huge. I don't deserve. Okay. Whoa. Always trying to earn passage. Like, I don't deserve it. I'm bad. I'm not good enough. These all triggered into this one. This one's double loaded with all kinds of things. Why don't you deserve it? All kinds of reasons. Other people's reasons, deep self-sabotaging beliefs, lack of confidence, all kinds of things, and including punishment, right? All of a sudden, I don't deserve this because I've been bad, I broke the rules, oh, I need redemption. Man.
Yeah, and these are not, I on this one especially, none of these sabotaging identities are conscious. We will uncover them and they'll pop up and you'll be like, I don't believe that. Do I believe that? Do I really think I don't deserve? Maybe a little, and the I don't deserve is that little voice that is allows you, somebody who's oriented in I don't deserve can have that manifest as that little voice in their head that allows them to accept mistreatment. And it's a brain mechanism. The I don't deserve is kind of buried so far down. A lot of people don't know it's there. They don't know what to do with it anyway. And someone who feels like they don't deserve respect will accept mistreatment in that way. Someone who believes that they don't deserve. So those deserving, I mean, you can say, I don't deserve to have a big fancy job or a lot of income, but more subtly, I don't deserve love. I don't deserve respect. I don't deserve the emotions that you want, but you don't deserve them.
Right.
And it's not a thing that comes up in judgment in any way. When we trip over these sabotaging identities, we're covering them because they're normal.
Yeah.
That's how we are wired. And when we trip over them, we know how to help with them. But if you're wired that way, you're wired that way. And that's, again, a call out to, coaches can help there.
Yeah. So interesting to point, these 7 self-sabotaging identities that, we talk about a lot, we unpack them, we figure them out, we want to be able to teach them and coach to them. And it's important right here, right now, to say, sometimes it's not just one. You can have 2, 3, 4 of them running at the same time, and it gets complicated, and so when we're, inside of this world of parts of ourselves fighting with other parts of ourselves, there's some effects that happen to us, the human condition of being sabotaged, and so I want to unpack a little bit some of these effects. These are ways, from your intellectual perspective, or maybe in a safe setting of this circle today, to say, I see that in myself. Maybe this is an opportunity to do a little digging and go a little bit deeper. And so one of those first things, those first symptoms or effects that you can see in your life from self-sabotage is that you trust others more than you trust yourself. Now, as children, we learn to rely on others for guidance, and that's necessary as we learn and grow, and we figure out how to stand alone in this world when we finally leave the nest of home and stand alone. But as adults, when we continue valuing the opinions of others more than our own, we risk betraying our true self. Like we come from our parents' nest, or sometimes that nest is a school of thought, a university, or it's a circle of friends, or whatever that is. As you start to stand in your independence and move out, because, if you're stuck on someone else's rules, there isn't room for your own. And without realizing it, with this going on, we may start living someone else's life at the cost of our own true nature and purpose. We put a pause on our own true nature and purpose because we're holding up something else. The people around us, they mean really well when they give us advice that fits their agenda, their worldviews, and by blindly following what they say, we tend to subscribe to their reality instead of our own. And sometimes that's an honor thing. Okay, Dad, I hear you. I'm going to do that because you told me to. Or, okay, this is my church and these are the rules of my faith, and all of a sudden maybe you're gay and you have a different version or another reason to stand up to be your true self, something opposing those rules that shows up. In this way, you may never realize what's important to you. You stay in this bubble, somebody else's rules. You can't tell the opinions of others from your own personal values. And as a result of that, right, you remain blind to your own true nature and purpose.
Yeah. Another one is focusing on threats more than on opportunities.
Yeah.
The human brain is wired for negativity. It literally kept us safe for generations. It's in our DNA to spot threats before opportunities, to notice them, to find them, to be on the lookout for them, on alert, and ensure physical survival before anything else. But this way of operating is not so useful now, is it? How often do you find yourself being chased by a lion or a bear coming at you? Just basic survival needs. Once you have those survival needs met, the next step is to turn towards, your soul needs, the deeper needs, to discover and live your true nature and purpose, which is what we talk about all the time and what we love. And for this to happen, you get to learn how to shift your attention away from threats and away from protecting yourself and toward opportunities, and just creating a life you love. Another thing we talk about all the time. One of my favorite sentences. Live a life you love.
Yeah. So I think there's another one too, Sarah and Laura. You avoid stillness at all costs. Like all of a sudden you're avoiding your own quiet time. Like all of a sudden you're left alone into your own devices and you do just about anything else. You jump on your phone, you turn on the TV, you get on whatever it is, anything to do something else. And in our society, few people actually see the value of stillness. We're not taught how to do this. We're not taught that it's important. In fact, we're taught not to do this. We're taught to be distracted. Our education and our work cultures perpetuate the idea that if you want to be happy, you need to do more and more and more things. Busy, 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 go, go, go. So you end up always chasing away these next achievements. You chase or you go after them because they're shiny. There's a shiny promise of once you get there, the gift will happen, right? And all of a sudden, here's that sabotage again. Go, go, go. It's the belief that when you achieve the big never-ending list, that life will, finally feel good. You'll, once again, yeah, but, or not until. Choosing stillness, however, like a meditation or harvesting some available choices about what you're doing, what you're creating next. You're in the realm of possibility as opposed to in the realm of lack. Now, this allows you to ponder such questions. And all of a sudden in stillness, there's room for the questions to be asked and there's room to receive those answers. If you never stop and pause, those questions remain unanswered, contrary to what, our society teaches us in this world. This is a self-sabotaging behavior that steers you away, not toward your true nature and purpose.
Yeah, that's a big one for me. I am a busybody, or I used to be a busybody. Now I have a lot more awareness of that need to be still. Another one is
Oh,
is deny yourself.
hey, Laura, you cut out there
Carl,
for a quick second. Start again, Laura. We got a blurb in your audio. Start again.
okay. Is it fine now?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay. So another one is denying your shadow self.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, Carl Jung used the word shadow to describe those aspects of our personalities that we prefer not to see and we prefer for no one else to see also. That's why most people run, flee, go inside, step away when their shadow self starts showing up. In ourself, it can show up in ourselves and it can show up in our relationships, and we tend to withdraw from that. Through cultural conditioning, we were told that certain impulses or feelings or intentions are just, they're not okay. They're not okay to present to the world for anyone to see. And we fear them ourselves. So we do our best to hide them. But it's your shadow self that has the most to teach you. It has the most to reveal to us about right? So patterns that we might be pushing away, can hide what's on the other side and not allow what's on the other side to show up. And it also shows you who you need to learn from. The people who trigger you the most, we've probably all had this experience, are often the greatest teachers. I've absolutely had that experience. Mm-hmm. And as much as there are some people who I can say I would love to have never had in my life, I absolutely get that, the value of having those experiences. It's a really interesting thing to get, right? These can be incredible hints for discovering, again, your true nature and purpose, who you really are. Just where it's slowly being revealed. And as we let these patterns go, that gets to come to the forefront. And when you deny that shadow, you deprive yourself of just an enormous amount of wisdom.
Oh, that one, I relate to that one in a big world. As a kid, afraid of conflict and always wanted to do the right thing, and these big, huge, angry energies. The thing I love about that is that those energies, they expose the areas where we get to grow again. Like these characters, these elements, these pieces of ourselves, of your shadow self, your dark side. I think we're going to do a whole lot more talking about the value of going into our dark side.
Absolutely.
A lot of good wisdom there. So watch for future about
whole other talk
of that. Yeah. Okay.
That
another one of these. Yeah, right on. Totally. So another one of these effects of sabotage that we can spot in our own world by ourselves, some of these symptoms or results of the self-sabotage. This one is you try to understand bloody everything. You just try to get it. You study, you learn, you study, you go again and again and again. So your emotions and your intuitions, your impulses and your gut feelings, most of us are taught to see these as a lesser source of knowledge. Emotions, intuition, impulses, gut feelings. Oh, wow, we're taught that that's not trustable. We're taught to look at those things as more savage and uncultured, part of a heritage handed down from our ancestors that does more harm than good in this modern, busy day and age. And instead, we praise our intellect as the way to understand everything. Our thinking mind gets the power, and the voice of our heart gets pushed way back on the back burner if it's allowed to speak at all. And this includes, our intellectual view of our deep self, our soul work. However, only thinking your way to your true nature and purpose rarely works. You only harvest half of the information, which means you're not moving forward. To discover your big why, like why are you here? What are you doing here? What's your fulfillment in this? What were you put on this planet for? You get to let go of trying to understand everything. When we look for our why, the importance to understand everything first falls away. So where do we get these new inspirations? We step into innocence. We make room for ambiguity and stillness. And we have more options than we could previously see. if we're busy achieving everything, understanding everything. That means if you don't understand it, it's not available. It's not even on the menu if you don't see it in your purview. But there's so much more outside of that. So how do we open that up? You know, if you try to intellectualize everything, your true nature and purpose will most likely remain hidden from you.
Oh, that's one of my big ones. You keep sharing all the ones that are big ones for me. And it took me a lot to get this because I just, you know, I'm analytical, my background's in math, they want to figure everything out, right? Solve the problem, figure it out. But just completely discounting the idea that there is a much greater source of wisdom than my mind, right? And by thinking I can figure it out all here, I'm missing all the opportunity to take in that higher wisdom and knowledge, you know, that source that knows so much more about me than I could possibly know about me in this realm, right?
Yeah.
So another one is self-talk. How many of us criticize ourselves more than we praise ourselves? I do. I'm working on that. It's shifting. Being overly critical of ourselves is it's just a defense mechanism, right? And by giving ourselves a hard time, we ensure ourselves against others criticizing us. We do it first before we can get hurt, right? Or before anyone will see it, we hide. And then even if they do, it's easier to take if we've already seen it or acknowledged it ourselves, right? Or claimed it. Because we already beat ourselves down to the ground. And some people also see self-criticism as a way to motivate themselves, just a negative motivation. And the logic is that being hard on ourselves, we set the bar higher and perform better the next time. Such a sharp contrast to, you know, what we want, choosing what we want and starting there instead of where we don't want, right? That's something we're talking about all the time. Mm-hmm. And in reality, criticizing ourselves is one of the most debilitating self-sabotaging behaviors that we can do. It undermines our identity by suggesting that we're not capable, or all of those other identities that we just talked about. And that prevents us from finding the courage to really play big, to really play full out and live big, which is usually required to be aligned with our true nature and purpose. Again, keep landing there, right?
Yup. So then I think the last of these effects or symptoms of being inside the self-sabotaging, what do we call that? Trap, perhaps, right?
Three-ring circus.
Yeah, three-ring circus, right? The last one of these is, you know, you cling to people who undermine you. Now, okay, so now we've already been undermining ourselves, and now we collect tribe to keep us in that same place. You know, and so like attracts like, right? So now just as you bring yourself down with your own negative self-talk, you also allow other people to undermine you. You know, and it isn't always clear when they do. Sometimes your best friends will downplay you by, you know, what seems like innocent jokes or being concerned about you, but really they're reflecting and mirroring back the message you're sending out. So once again, you're proving it to yourself. You know, if you cling to people who see you as less than you are, you're not helping yourself. By constantly getting this feedback, it says that you aren't capable, and, you know, you start believing it. You know, so spending time with people who make you feel insecure, small, embarrassed of who you are. Maybe that's a form of self-sabotage all by itself. You know, that's holding you back. You know, this isn't about blaming others. One sec, Sarah. This isn't about blaming others for your situation. Rather, it's about assessing whether spending time with them is helpful to discover and live your true nature and purpose, or are you staying stuck in your self-sabotaging behaviors? Yeah, Sarah.
I just came to mind recently there's a lot of age-old wisdoms or phrases or little advices that you hear even through childhood. A common one, birds of a feather. Mm-hmm. That's loaded in here. And
Mhm.
it doesn't mean just one thing, but it is something to notice. And there's a whole lot of different ways to notice, but I would just have everyone call to mind that phrase, birds of a feather flock together, and everything that can mean when you're talking about people.
Mhm. Well, that calls out something really beautiful too, about when you finally do stand alone and you take your power back, that more than likely your tribe and your inner circle is going to change too. You know, you're going to get a new flock. You're going to get a new like attracts like attached to that.
Yes.
And
I don't know about any of you, but I am loving this new tribe and this new flock, right? That
Yeah.
we've all created, and we've all, created the vibration to hold this, this tribe. But what I really love is that we get to choose our each desired identity, our next desired identity. We get to make it true. We get to make it real. And why would we desire to shift and change our identity, to trade suffering for satisfaction, and more than satisfaction, just beautiful, magnificent life, right? We can honor the power of active choice. That's what so much of this is about.
Yes.
Choose, purposefully choose what we want and move toward it. We're designed to play safe. We've just talked about that. We're designed to stay safe, but we're also designed for change. And our buddy Joe Dispenza talks about that all the time. We'll mention his book, Breaking the Habit of Being Yourself, over and over and over. It's just a magnificent book talking about how, we are conditioned. And he says by the age of 35, we are conditioned into a set pattern of behaviors that becomes our personality. And that's pretty well in place and set by the age of 35, right? And unless we do something to change that, unless we step in, unless we notice, unless we change those patterns, and we often need help with that, you get to have some help to do all of this good work. Everyone can use a coach. And everyone can use an outside view, of those patterns that we're living through and that are running us.
Right. Oh, help is everything. And if that comes from your best friend reflecting you back because they know what you love and they're holding you accountable, or, okay, let's make it a little bit more professional, a little bit more, accessible in a bigger way. And you actually get a coach. That's a cool thing. But until that happens, here's a couple of things to think about, right? On the way to uncovering your sabotage, here's a few more things to think about. There's 3 steps that I've called out. The first step is to stop self-sabotage is to recognize that this is what you're doing. You actually see that and recognize that some of these pieces of the puzzle are engaged in your active experience. So now your conscious mind is going, whoa, there's a lot of stuff going on in my unconscious mind. You wake up to this. So you get to understand that even though your behavior has a function, like protecting you from failure or some of these sabotaging beliefs, they were put in place from a positive intent somewhere in the past. However, it's no longer in your highest benefit. You're changing. Another opportunity to grow again. Some suffering and some pain and discomfort is an opportunity to look again. Respecting yourself enough to look again. I love that. Now, respect comes from the word respectare, which means literally the willingness to look again. Respectare, the willingness to look again. These behaviors from the past may have easily and more than likely were a valid coping mechanism from the past that served you then to keep you safe. When you didn't have any other way to meet your needs. But, in the present here, it sabotages you by keeping you from realizing your purpose, right? All of a sudden you're staying stuck. One of these great wake-ups on awareness about self-sabotage is if you're feeling stuck, you can't move. Another step is to ask yourself how you could replace that old coping mechanism that you've now discovered or are just aware of, and replace it with a more helpful one now. Okay, now in this work, we talk a lot about goal setting and making true choices. and how that sets the path to stay in your power, to create a life you love. Okay, so now we're entering the realm of possibility. First step, we discovered there's something holding us back. Now it's like, okay, what could it be? What are the steps? What's going to help with assist, make me feel better, right? And the third step, once we get into some of that, we start seeing that there's some more possibilities, is to clarify your personal values around these new goals, and we start acting on them. Now, values are such an important thing. We have an old set of values that got us where we are, and now this new thing is creating a new set of values, which makes it exciting. It keeps us on the path. It keeps us going. Our values set our behaviors into motion. So being in alignment in this way with your true choices, with a clear focus on the end result, is the key to your success here. Now, these are the tools of coaching, once again, where a coach comes in handy to help set this path, one, into clarity, and two, into action. When you embrace these opportunities that align with these new values, discovering your true nature and purpose becomes inevitable. Discovering your true nature and purpose is a byproduct of honoring your self-work, not worth, work. You're working on yourself. You're loving yourself enough to work on yourself. This is so cool. Now let's look back and say, okay, without these self-sabotaging blocks in place, you realize you don't have to be stuck in a perpetual internal conflict. When we're stuck, there isn't a possibility to change. Now all of a sudden we go, oh, I just can't do that anymore. There's got to be something else. And then all of a sudden there's a possibility. Then the menu comes, and then we have choices. And then we go, oh, those choices feel even better than the first ones. Now we emotionalize those choices. And then we breathe wind into the sails of these new things. And in so doing, we regain our power to create from a place of love, right? We're now creating from a place of love. We love ourselves enough to look forward, to gaze forward. We're no longer looking backward. We're looking forward. And when you get to this place, this beautiful, beautiful place, living your true nature and purpose becomes the only option. Because one, it's obvious. Two, it feels amazing. And three, you start harvesting your successes everywhere. You know, all of a sudden you're in your power and you get proud of yourself of what you're creating. All right.
Okay, I'm just in love with everything you just said. And I love self-work so much. I just wrote that down. That's my new thing. Self-work. I love it. I'm loving all these words I've been harvesting: power, focus, life you love, true nature, choose. I'm loving all these words that are showing up in this discussion. But you know, when we talk about the benefits of coaching, you'll hear us talk all the time here in this arena about discovering and living your true nature and purpose, creating a life you absolutely love. And this is what matters to us, for us and for you. This is just what we're all about. And so many people, this just hits me a lot. So many people seem to really never discover their true nature and purpose. And it's not because they don't have one, it's because they're addicted to these self-sabotaging behaviors that we're talking about, those patterns, those programs that are literally running us.
Let me interrupt for a quick second about addiction. You know, the addiction of the thoughts that we've done, these self-sabotaging thoughts for the last 20, 30 years. And we learned from epigenetics and neuroplasticity and neuroscience that when we have those thoughts, all of a sudden our brain, our body releases chemicals that our cells literally become addicted to. When we stop doing that, we kind of go into withdrawal. Like, wait, I need that. I've had it every day reliably for 30 years. Where is it? And so we panic a little. And in this journey, we're breaking that old habit and building a new one. So we give ourselves permission intellectually to be uncomfortable, knowing that we're changing. I find that to be a nice little helper forward. Right.
Yeah, absolutely.
Our autopilots, right?
Yeah, so much of this is on autopilot. We don't even realize it. We've got these old habits. in patterns. We're stuck, and without noticing that there's just this big, giant, juicy life out there, to live. I've done this for a long, long time, but since I had my son, I just remember having these moments where I just look around and observe what people are doing and what they're occupying their time with. And, people are going to work and they come home and they grab we talk about Doritos and Netflix a lot here. So I'll just pull that up again, and just go through these routine patterns. Joe Dispenza talks about this a lot. You wake up, you check your WhatsApp, you go, oh, Mary's, this, you share that news with other people, you do the next thing, and it's just a set of routine patterns until the end of the day. And then you start again. And, I remember years ago, I was probably in my early 20s. I was walking along a beautiful road near my house. It was in the fall and the light was shining through the leaves and the trees and it was glowing. And I was listening. I had just gone to a used bookstore and I got this set of cassette tapes, the whole series, and it was Wayne Dyer. I had my headphones on and I was walking along, and there was a quote, and I don't know if it was his quote or if he got it from somewhere else, but what he said was, most people die with their music still in them. And many of us have heard that quote, but it was so profound when I heard that. And it has always just sort of sat there on my shelf, to remind me we have music to make, we have things to create, we have these big lives to live, we have curiosities to chase after, and they're all unique to us, and we get to do that. We get to find them and choose them and go after them. And we don't want anything in the way, but there are things in the way. And, often we can't see on our own, how we're undermining ourselves, and a coach can help us see those blind spots. A coach can help us set up that structure of where we are now, where we want to go, set up that tension, and then we move in that direction. And when these self-sabotaging patterns come to pull us back, a coach can help lift those away so that we can move and sail in the direction of those big dreams and goals and the juicy things that we're always talking about here. So That's, we all have coaches, and, everyone can have that help. So,
Sarah.
Just as I was listening to you guys unpacking this, and this is one of my favorites, is to really share the information that this is just a normal way of living, and these are the mechanisms in behind it, and to help people understand that these things, these patterns, these thought processes, these ways of standing and looking at your life are optional. And when you see all of this or hear all of this information, like what we've been listening to today, you can start considering your self-talk, and you don't hear it. You don't hear this stuff, and a coach will ask you those questions and help you hear yourself. And when you can hear yourself, you can witness yourself. And then you're looking at your life and you can hear how you're talking to yourself. It's being brought to your attention. You can witness how you're living. And then the most beautiful piece of coaching is when a coach can show you and help you recognize where are your choices.
Mm-hmm.
And so once you can hear yourself talk, you can witness how you're living your life, and then you can recognize where your choices are. Well, then, like, do you want to do something big? Like, do you want to tackle, like, life is pretty good, but do you want to really, like, go for it and do a thing? And you want to do it mindfully. You want to take deliberate action. Coaches help with that. You're feeling all kind of twisted up and uncomfortable, and life isn't quite fitting you and you want to maybe rearrange it somehow, a coach can show you where those pieces are and show you where your choices could be and help you come up with a plan to shuffle it around a bit.
Right.
Or maybe you're just sitting in the broken puzzle of your life and you have no idea. And you need help picking up all of those pieces and putting it back together and gathering yourself up and gathering your life up. And a coach would help you understand an efficient and gentle way to approach it. The same way if you're looking at a jigsaw puzzle, you never did one before, it's helpful to have someone there say, why don't you pick out the corner pieces first? And then we're going to do all the edges. And then we're going to work away at different spots in the puzzle. And eventually your puzzle is done. It's helpful to have that level of guidance if everything's all in pieces. But don't underestimate the value of knowing where your choices are when you want to rearrange. If you just need a shuffle, it's really efficient, gentle, and it won't destabilize things because you're very aware of your choices. And so, yeah.
So there's, one of the things about like this sabotage, self-sabotage in any of these things like we've talked about today, in the self-sabotaging identities, as well as your conscious sabotage and your unconscious sabotage, right, is feeling stuck. My gosh, we need a little bit of help to figure it out. Coaching is a safe place to figure it out. And I think some of those figuring it out steps, one is to understand that you can dream if you haven't been doing your dreaming. If you haven't been doing your dreaming, of course you're going to be stuck because there's no result. There's no target. You have no idea. You're wandering aimlessly with a blindfold on, right? So that's what this helps out with. Self-sabotage. This is an amazing conversation to call into the light around identifying what we want to create in this world and then discovering the resistance to it. And that discovery process sometimes is dark and can be a little bit bumpy. However, like we've said again and again, the only thing harder than doing this work is not doing this work. So I just want to give a little shout out as we're wrapping things up today. Next up, day after tomorrow in our Genius Hub, which is our membership site, we're gonna dive into, roll up our sleeves and get into the emotional recode, which is, the work with the superconscious. Those of you who are new to us, it won't be long till you know what we're talking about, but we're not going to talk about it right now. Also, next week, 1 week from today, our next episode of Let's Talk, I'm super excited. We're going to dive into the human journey. When we go from innocence into hesitation and into re-empowerment. Now, I love that definition of the human journey. That's going to be next week, 1 week from today. All right, we're at my favorite part of every episode that we do is when we open up the circle to everyone who is here. And we've got some really wonderful, talented, wisdom walking friends in this circle today. And so I want to just open it up to some aha moments, some takeaways, perhaps some questions. Let's hear from some folks who are here in the room. Who wants to jump in and share with us? Who wants to go first? We know you're here. We know there's wisdom in the room. Let's harvest it. Let's share it.
Hey, Corey, I got some.
Patrick, welcome to the circle, my friend. It's always good to see
Thank you. Yeah, it was a good session. I liked it. I noticed something that Laura said. She was talking about identities, and this is something that I've noticed, like working with a lot of the students in the magnetic mind and the coaches too. Like immediately after one of the recodes, I can see their identity tries to pull them back to where they were.
Oh yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, I was actually just wondering, is there anything that we can do as coaches to not allow them to do that?
Well, I think there are, a lot of the things that are built into the program, just reinforcing all of the good things, doing the meditation, shifting the vibrations to hold the new identity. You know, that's something I think about a lot. I think about frequency and vibration a lot. And if we're creating a new identity, we need to grow the charge to hold that new identity. So all of those, you know, those things that we're doing, supportive things that we're doing, and we can, you know, share with our clients to grow you have to grow it. You don't just jump to it and land there and stay there. If you go there, you'll come back. Years ago, I went to a church where they had a big, you know, band, and it was just this big giant, it was so great, and it was loud, and it was, you know, the pastor was screaming and hollering, and everybody was like, I'm never going to sin again, and, you know, and it was so fun, and just this bright, beautiful environment. And when I went home, I came up with this term that I call borrowed enthusiasm. And I remember thinking this, you know, that was like a Tony Robbins seminar. Everybody went and they're like, yes, I'm going to do this and I'm going to be this person. And then they go home, and I'll bet halfway through the week, they're just not, you know, and it's like their vibration was lifted for a moment, and they were borrowing the enthusiasm of that, you know, that world, that pastor, that group. But you have to grow the charge to hold it yourself. You know, you have to grow the charge to live in that new vibration. So it's not just
the only thing,
right?
The only thing that, like, we get the vibration up with the recode, and then like that, it's just like, oh yeah, that was great. But you know, I'm just dealing with a lot. I've got like this and this, and this is going on in my life. And I'm like, don't go back there. Don't you dare.
Mm-hmm.
Stay where you just were in your end result.
I think that's what we're talking about, is coaching accountability.
Yeah.
Stay in line. Yeah, Sarah.
Yeah, well, to that point, I would say, you know, as coaches, it's again helping people recognize their choice. It's a choice. And so it's less about what someone has to do or should do or didn't do or don't do, you know. It's more about, do you see the choice you're making, and is the choice you're making true for you? And can I lend you some enthusiasm to get the lift off? But the entire coaching method that we use is a 5-step method, and the very last one just kind of anchors in the change. And it's either a meditation or it's a commitment to take an action.
Yeah.
And if you identify the action and, you know, have them commit, what are you going to do now? Now that this has happened, what's your next step? And have them commit to it. You don't really know the results of the process or the coaching session until you see the action that got attached to it. So sometimes in a moment, you may think maybe not much change, or maybe there was a lot. But what you're really looking for is, did it help them move towards their goal? Because everything else is a sidebar. Everything.
Yeah.
All you're doing is you are trying to help. As coaches, we're trying to pave the road in front of, and there may be something crop up on the side that is slightly in, you know, it's creating a little bit of bother. We can push some thought processes aside. We can calm down some sabotaging identities, but we're coaching someone towards where they want to go, not where we think they should go, or
Right.
you know, I think we need to make sure that we keep the power with the client.
Mhm.
I want to
And
interject a little bit right here because, you know, this particular circle is, and then this comment's for the benefit of those who are new to us, is that in this circle, we talk about the benefits of coaching from a client perspective. And then our membership site, which is Day After Tomorrow, is where we really, as coaches talking coaching, we get into the coaching, we really get into the philosophy behind it. So we kind of try to keep things a little bit more simple and absorbable in this session. I just want, for those of you who are like, what are they talking about? All right, so just calling it back a little bit. Thanks.
Sarah.
Well, you know, one of the things that comes to mind is just this idea that, you know, our mentor, you know, he lovingly chooses not to play with us in the arena or on the lily pad of current reality. You know, in this work, we have where we are, the current reality, and we have where we want to be, right? Our desired reality. But we want to keep our focus on that desired reality. So when when our clients are going back to that lily pad and keeping the focus there, that's where the tension will resolve if we keep the focus there. So just sort of having the agreement and reminding that in love, we choose not to live there, to play there, to focus there. So just even the reminder at the beginning when this is new, it's just this reminder, hop over to the, you know, to where you want to be. And it's just, we just keep doing that over and over and over, right?
Yeah, I just got a metaphor. So like it's a baby elephant, and when it grows up and it's stuck to that stake, it like just stays there, right?
Yes.
But let's say a kid comes and he's throwing rocks at the elephant, and the elephant breaks free and kills that kid, and then goes back to the stake and just stands there. No rope attached to him. He's just stuck.
Yep. Those perceived limitations are still there, and it's just this constant reminder, you know, of what we can do instead. And really that is just so much of that is just habit, a habit of going back to, oh, this is wrong. This is a problem. And we don't work in problem reality. We work in possibility, right?
Yeah.
So.
Charity has her hand up.
Hey, Charity, welcome.
Hi, hello everybody. Glad to be here. It's been a great session. I had like 3 pages of notes, so
Cool.
just I know got some good stuff out of this. But what I was going to say in reaction to what Patrick said was that you know, our mentor, I'll just he does not entertain our stories. He does not. But he also says, you know, to us like, well, you can fight for your limitations if you want to. You can choose that if you choose to. If you want to, this is yours. You know, it's all about you if you want that. And he kind of, in that way, I think it's important in that way that, you know, and basically he's like posing a question. Okay, would you like to stay there? You know, and posing and reflecting it back to them saying, do you want to hold that card? You know, and in a kind way, but because it is the power in all of these processes is with the person to change the belief, the willingness, the surrender to it, all of it is. It's like the thing he also says about the seed, you know, as far as, you know, expecting the recode to be like, you know, oh, we're not perfect, right? We're not doing these things to become saints. And we're not going to get that. But the thing is that you put the seed in the ground and you water it, but you don't sit there and water it and water it and water it and sit there and then dig it up and try to, you know, it takes time and over again through all the processes. That's, you know, that's how it happens. And like you said, I think that's important to recognize that that it does take time and all the processes together, working together, that and every person's different. Like, you know, like with I say medical field or something like that, like medicines, if this were a medicine, it would react differently to you than it would react to you, because your body's different, your experiences are different, your stuff is different, you're a totally different universe. So that's all I wanted to say. Thanks, you guys are awesome.
Oh, thank you, Charity. It's always nice to see you. Thanks for coming in.
Yeah, thank you so much for pointing out that really important piece, that the recode is an incredibly powerful tool for transformation, but without using that in the context of the structure, it just doesn't have the same power. You know, you need all of it, and that structure and the repetition, all of it is needed. And yeah, so
Who else in the
powerful.
room? Who else hasn't had a chance to come forward? Anybody else with some ahas or takeaways or questions or something to share? Anyone else? Oh yeah.
I'll
Oh,
say
yeah.
something.
Lisa, welcome. Nice to see you.
Nice to see you. The whole tying together the recode along with the church thing, as somebody who's spent a fair amount of time in church once upon a time, I think that's really, really interesting. I've never looked at it that way, but I get what you're saying. It puts you in this one space and then you leave and it's another week until you get back there. So what do you do in the meantime? Like, what do you do in the day to day? How do you stay there? That is really helpful. I've never quite seen it that way before.
And that is where the lenses are so critical. Yeah. They're such a foundational part. You know exactly what to do to stay in that space. And you do your best to do that according to the plan that you come up for yourself. So lenses and just choosing to take the action. Okay, I'm going to do it. Okay, then we'll see you next week and tell me how it went. You know, and just to keep the momentum. The momentum is really important. And from, you know, your coach's perspective, we want to make sure that everything stays in flow and that you're continually making progress and getting where you want to go. And we will lend out enthusiasm. We will help with tools like the recode or any of the other 14 processes that we know, and anything that we have on deck that's going to help you get to where you say you want to go. That's what we use. And yep, we'll lend you our enthusiasm too.
I love it.
Yeah, me too. I just want to give a shout out, Mendy. You have an excellent shirt on right now, by the way.
Matching.
Anybody else? But now I got Mendy's attention. Mendy, do you have anything to offer?
Actually, I'd like to share something. What I noticed that what I present to is what I'm working with other clients that have not like someone who is mentioned about the lenses, which were moving forward every week, doing something, the person who didn't do the work. And I feel like, okay, what else I'm going to do? If you haven't done the lenses, the person ready, well, I'm really honest about it. And then accepting the clients, what they're really truly knowing the clarity and focus, get the actions and forward. And then just anchoring the energy, and then which we did a chain of anchors. And then the clients, wow, I realized I didn't have this clarity. I've been rambling all over just, and then finally all those chain anchors, all the confidence and courage, actions and everything that she had, all the things she was asking questions, other courses and everything. She's like, wow, and everything is there. Actually, I had it. I've been done. So I really love this anchoring chain up, because that gives me clarity in going forward. And again, looking forward to the lenses, just make sure do the homework. Otherwise, like, you know, if you don't do the work, how much we put in energy or time is not valued. They're not valued themselves as well. So you have to be really given clarity. This is what we really together as we are as a team.
I love this. I'm thinking about this. The word work has come up over and over and over. And I just really want to point out that work is really taking action, because in this world, unlike, you know, okay, let me step back. Traditionally, if we set a goal and we move towards something and we're just doing it by will alone, it can be really hard work. You know, if we're not aware of these sabotaging patterns, if we're not aware of what's in the way and we're just trying to will our way through that, then it can be really hard work. The thing is here, we're just putting things in where they belong in the structure. We've got the lenses, we've got where you want to go, we've got where you are, we've got the attention, we've got, and I'll say this over and over, I build this structure in my mind right here all the time. And all you have to do is work it. You just have to make movements. And if it's hard, then we know what to do there. You know, if you're moving and you're not getting somewhere, you don't have to work harder. You just have to, you know, do the steps. We can do a recode and lift resistance. You know, we can strengthen the tension. We can make sure it's a true choice. Those things aren't hard work. They're just action, right? So it's a big difference than, you know, it's from pushing and willing and, you know, willpower and I can do it and I have to try harder. It's a whole different thing.
You know what, Lara, I was just, as you were talking yesterday, I was just going to close a door. That's all I wanted to do. I just wanted to close a door and it wouldn't close. And I was pushing on the door and it wouldn't close. And I could have pushed and pushed and pushed and I would have been tired out and leaning and may have broken something or caused some damage or whatever. But
It was a pull door, wasn't it?
I went and took a look in the hinge and my cat had left a toy in the hinge and I hadn't seen it from my point of view. So from where I was standing, there was nothing stopping the door from closing. When I went around to the other side, I could see that there was something in the way. It didn't take any effort to pull this little fuzzy mouse toy out of the door jamb and close the door. And that is how I would liken a coach. You don't have to force it. You don't have to work harder and push harder. You go and say, what's in the way? And from a coach's point of view, they may see something you didn't see and they can just remove it. And now you can do what you wanted to do. And that's the goal.
Identifying the resistance and then being able to shift and move and remove resistance. Now that is the path of coaching for sure. For sure. Yeah. Anybody else? Any last minute nuggets from anybody who hasn't had a turn to speak yet? Anybody else? There's quite a few people in the room. Anyone else?
Okay, just quick. Self-sabotage. I just want to draw attention to the word self. It's us. It's us. Self-sabotage. We're doing it. So we cannot do it, right?
Well, we put it in place for a very good reason once upon a time, and now discovering a very good reason to set a different set of instructions and to change it. And we get to. We really do. We get to. Yeah. So good. All righty. Any last minute nuggets before we close up this recording for today? Anyone else? Last minutes? All right. Well, I just want to say thanks to everybody in the room. Thanks to the Magnetic Ore coaches, the Magnetic Mind certified coaches, the people in our tribe, and of course, the new people who are hanging out with us all around the globe. Thank you very much. This has been Let's Talk, and we're going to see you real soon. Thank you so much. Cheers, everyone. More time with you.
Thanks for coming.
Thank you.